The pitfalls of self-producing. So this section was originally, what the bleep have you done for the label?
Spread the word.
Tom has actually done quite a bit for the label. You brought over your Supro. We're going to do an unboxing video. So you schlepped about 100 pounds of gear over to my house. So that's kind of cool. What the bleep have you done for the label this week?
I've been spreading the word, telling my buds.
There you go.
Jazz Destroyers, get off my lawn.
There you
Place
go.
to be.
Carissa?
I showed up here and I kept you from dying last weekend. So
You did a lot. To give you guys the quick updates, I've compiled and I've begun mastering the Best of Freeform Fridays 2016. So that'll be coming out
Yes,
probably January.
because you forgot to hit save.
Well, they're compiled. I'd actually worked on mastering it. I have a QA. I did save the output of it, but if I need to make any changes, I need to start over.
Okay.
There's that. We've been. I finished editing all of the Freeform Fridays 2017 or 16. Sorry, 2016. I'm already thinking about 2017. So I've finished editing all of the videos for the year. So I've got like this weird lull, because usually like 3-4 nights out of the week I spend editing video for YouTube.
Yeah.
It's called Christmas shopping, dear.
I'm halfway done with that already.
That's a little bit funny.
That's a breeze. And so we got that going. I think next weekend we're doing that session for Andrea.
Is that confirmed?
I gotta confirm
I was
that.
gonna say that wasn't on the calendar yet.
But yeah, there's a lot. We worked on the website a bit.
Sorry, that's me.
Yeah, that needs to go on mute. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing for the label this week. So let's talk, but instead that's not an interesting clip. So
No.
let's talk about the pitfalls of self-producing. So Tom has self-produced a few albums. I certainly have. And I've produced for other people, as have you. Cole, you ever self-produce?
Well, I did demos with friends over the years. It wasn't anything like of a major production.
All right, so nothing like, no final release.
No.
Okay.
And I've known more self-producers than I can count.
Right, and with self-producers, you can totally Pro Tools stuff to death.
That is definitely a possibility.
That is the first pitfall.
That was never an option for me.
Not for Tom, because Tom came up in the tape era.
I've got an album I can let you listen to that has been done that way, and it's like,
I've
no.
worked with Reason before.
Yeah, I did an album on Reason called 2006 and Beyond.
No, that was on Reason, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did that almost entirely in Reason, though I used Absinthe for one. Like, some of the tracks were done with Reason, some of them were done with what rig I had in college, which was still... There's a lot of it still here, you know?
Man.
But my first... We were explaining this to Cole in the beginning, or before the show. My first recording experiences would have been probably 1996, 97, 98, probably. Somewhere between 95 and 98. I would have been a freshman. It probably would have been 98. I would have been a freshman in high school is when I worked on my first record.
My first recording experiences, you mean where I actually made like a demo?
Well, so for
Would have
me,
been-
my whole life, I didn't really know, because I did this all in a bubble, right? I got my hands on some software. I've been playing with MIDI since middle school, and I've been like figuring out how to work
Yeah, I would always make MIDI demos.
MIDI stuff.
Yeah.
And then in high school, once I got Music Maker from eMagix, or Magix, sorry, that's what it was, Magix Music Maker, and it was a multi-track DAW for Windows 95. And I actually, this is the result of it right here. I never released New Train of Thought, but I should probably, you know what I'll do? I'll put that track up.
And that's all you?
Yeah, this would all be me. This is
cool.
2002. I finished this record.
Nice.
So I'll put the title track of this up because it's actually kind of cool. But I would do these things where I would like overdub 4 guitars and write these intricate harmony parts, and it's kind of what got me started. But I never knew that like a demo. I had no concept as to how music got made. I heard music, and then I got this thing that I could make music, so I just tried to make music. I didn't realize that there were like demos and
all
take that to a
organic.
studio. I was just like, oh, okay, so the stuff on the radio, they must have been using things like this, though they had
Kind
real
of the protocol of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm that first generation of that, where you were very aware of the whole process.
I went into a commercial facility for the first time in 1984.
Right, I was
So-
one.
I was 14.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. 8-track. I don't remember what tape machine it was. I'm going to
But it was
guess.
a tape machine.
It was 1984.
Right. I'm working this through, so it would have been like a half-inch machine.
That was a 1-inch.
It was a 1-inch, probably 8-track.
1-inch 8-track, yeah.
And how many reels did you get to fill up?
Well, we were in there as a band, so it was a 5-piece band, 2 guitars, keyboard, bass,
I'm sure you guys rocked.
drums, and a very perky, chesty female singer.
What kind of rock
It's
band?
called the Sexists.
No, it was actually called Have Mercy, and we were, a cover band. We recorded a cover of Dirty White Boy,
Oh my god.
Hit Me With Your Best Shot,
Oh, even better.
Some Pat.
Goodbye to You.
Oh, do you still have
And
these exist?
they do still exist. I need to get a copy of them when I'm in Kentucky because
Yes, well,
it's
what format would they exist on?
I think actually my friend David who runs Studio Up there has actually digitized at some point, but they're still around on cassette.
Yeah, we
So-
should. By the way, we've been talking about this. I want to get in touch with David. Let's have David on the podcast.
So but we did it. It was, and the owner of the studio was also the art teacher at our high school.
Ironically, I remember my high school chemistry teacher had a radio show,
That's cool.
and he was the only guy I knew who he said, "Yeah, we use Pro Tools." And I didn't know what Pro Tools was, but it was
What year
called-
was that?
Let's see, that would have been around 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I remember going Pro Tools because I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there were magazines for this stuff. I was just a kid
Right.
making do with what I had because I had no resources.
Kid with the fascination.
It wasn't until I got to be like 19 and I was out of high school and I was working that then I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy microphones, and that's when I got my first 4-track tape machine, and then hated it and went right back to the computer. But yeah, in high school, we wound up getting up to like Cakewalk version 9. But we would like pass around Cakewalk Home Studio, and that was like 8 tracks, and you could like layer stuff on top. A lot of it was very limited, but we made do, and we had a good time. And you made do with 8 tracks. But the reason I'm asking, so you got to go to the studio for what? How many days? A month?
A day.
A day. How much did the day cost?
I want to say the day was about like $250.
$250. Do you know what you can get a day in this town for today?
No idea.
About $350.
Really?
You can if you have $350, you can find a good studio in Austin.
So it was a 12-hour day, but I mean it was mixing and recording and mixing all in the same day, and we had to have our parents take us out there because it was out in the county, and
Now, did
none of
that
us,
$250 include the tape?
we did not keep the master.
So you didn't. So they would have used the house reels.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think he did quite that much business, but I really don't know.
Well, but like he would have taped over it.
Yeah, he eventually would have taped over that.
The engineer was extra, probably, right?
The engineer was also the owner, so
Yeah, okay.
It was a guy with
You
a,
have the contract.
it was a guy with a studio in what would have otherwise been a barn, but he finished it out and
Yeah.
made it a studio. So it had a drum room and a vocal booth, and then an open room for everyone else,
Yeah.
and 1 compressor and like 2 reverb units and maybe a delay. It was a nice board. I think it was a Trident.
And the funny thing is, it's basically how I like to make records now. So we talked a lot about how. But with that, when you do the self-producing thing, because I hear it all the time, especially as a guitarist, you almost never release anything when you self-produce.
You're never happy with it.
You're never happy with it.
It's true.
I got news for you. You'll never be happy with it. Ask anybody
Mm-hmm.
with their release through a major label. They hate everything about it. And it's what drives them to make the next one, is because maybe they can do a better one. But
Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
the whole point of a
Keep going.
label is you're basically delegating the good enough threshold to somebody else.
And that's just it, right? Which is when you self-produce, and I hate self-producing. I
do
just
too.
loathe it. It isn't so much.
I self-produce a lot.
The thing is, I don't expect necessarily a better mix. Although typically, if I get someone else to do it, I feel like I'll get a better mix. But I don't necessarily expect it. But what I do expect when someone else is doing that for me is to not have to divide my attentions, as
energy.
as an artist
Oh,
and
yeah.
a performer
For sure.
with engineer
You have to change your scope.
and then mixer,
Yeah.
because you have to perform the engineer part and the artist part simultaneously
Straining.
during the tracking sessions.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to delegate that off and let someone else do it, and even let someone else mix it, even if I think, oh, that my vocals are much too loud because I hate the way I sing, right? So
Now here's the pitfall, though, right? The pitfall is the other side of this coin is when you're asking somebody else to do it for you, they expect compensation in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when you have no money and you're making your first album, you don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that luxury unless you're going to save a bunch of money and then pay a guy. But even paying a guy $250 a day, it's going to take you.
right.
Well, and then they want to put their stamp on it, obviously. So,
Well,
and that's
like we talked to Steve Albini last week, right?
Right.
Steve Albini tries to not put his stamp on it,
yes.
though. I
People
mean,
like Mutt Lang would though.
the way he likes to do things, the way he likes to capture things, that already puts a stamp on it. But yeah, he tries to stay out of the way artistically,
Mm-hmm.
and so I went to college to learn how to put my stamp on it, on how to be a producer like
Mhm.
that. And I really looked up to the guys like George Martin
Mm-hmm.
and
Sure.
Brian Eno, and I kind of looked at like Rick Rubin and went,
Rick Rubin, yeah.
not so much for me. But as time has gone on, it's more like, well, actually, yeah, just stay out of the way of the band. Let them just capture it.
Your
But
thoughts
that's-
on the noise war?
Yeah, well, the loudness war you're talking
Yeah.
about, the loudness war only matters in commercial radio.
Mm-hmm.
It makes no difference to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I push things into commercial loudness, sure, because I was a mastering engineer full time, and I know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to remember, there's this thing about your ear. If you hear something louder than something else, it's automatically better.
Oh yeah.
Whatever's louder is just automatically better to
Yeah.
your ear. It's a weird bias that we have. It's a psychoacoustic effect, and that's what's driven the loudness wars over the years.
Mhm.
And I still buy vinyl, and I can
If you think about the psychoacoustic wars, it really has to do with immediate threat, right? From
Yeah.
a long time ago in our history, whereas if something's louder, it's closer to you and quite likely going to eat you.
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely. It kind of initiates
grabs your attention.
a flight or fight response, and it kind of gets you going, and that's kind of the whole deal with music in the first place.
And ironically, some of the albums that are not mastered quite as hot, they actually sound better when transmitted over FM radio. Because FM radio compresses the snot out of everything anyway. So if it's already compressed, it's just not compressing much
Right.
more, but it's still degrading the audio.
Mhm.
Where the punchier master's got it'll be more compressed, but it'll survive that compression.
Some of my favorite records are pretty quiet too. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to turn them up, and you can hear some cool stuff in there.
Yeah, there's a volume knob.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to push to 0 as hard as we do, but
Yeah.
there's a volume knob.
No 11.
But the pitfalls of self-producing really come down back to this, right? The pitfalls really come down to you have to figure out a way to deal with it where how do you determine it's done?
Right.
Because when you can sit there and tweak it in your spare time forever, you will.
The definition of producer will always change. I mean, you have, the Mutt Lang version of the producer where he was like a coach, and Def Leppard just came up with like a riff, and he was like, oh, that's good, we're going to use that.
But Mutt Lang engineers.
That too, yeah.
He's an engineer producer. He's more of a.
Yeah, and
He
they say
spends a lot of time on the mixes.
Yeah, like, Shania Twain's sound is very, he's responsible for a lot of that, and a producer can also help with marketing too, kind
You're
of
so young.
understanding. I am young, but it does give me a fresh perspective on things, I will say.
So Steve Albini's made over 2,000 records.
1,500 according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's higher than that now.
Probably. Yeah.
He's not updating his own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, that's true.
So I've thought long and hard about this. I've been around the guys who have made the records with name producers, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, they think that, yeah, if I attach myself to this name, this known name, that it will somehow sell more copies. It doesn't.
Yeah, I
It's a
guess
myth.
with aficionados, possibly. But yeah, pretty general speaking, marginally it would increase. And for all intents and purposes, it doesn't matter.
If your goal is major label,
Right.
to be signed to a major label and get radio and do the radio play thing and generate a lot of like publicity, sure, maybe it helps a little, but what those guys will charge, it's almost impossible to make it back.
You know what I'm interested in doing as a project? I'd almost be willing to spend the money to do it too.
Uh-oh.
So, the most recent release from Isotope is a software that basically mixes by a mix wizard, right? It analyzes your files, your WAV files.
I know.
You know, it'd be kind of interesting to go, you know, I'm going to do like 3 tunes and I'm going to actually just let it make the choices and see what the heck comes out.
Maybe it's a masterpiece.
I mean, realistically, it's not.
Well, Roland's been playing with this auto mixing thing.
Well,
too.
and so has the guys who did Easy Drummer, right? They also have one as well, Easy Mix and that sort of thing. But apparently the Isotope one's the latest release from them is a little more advanced in terms of its analysis of each file, and it'd be very interesting. I mean, sooner or later, just like everything else,
I don't agree.
technology is going to eat some of that.
I still think
always
that a
does.
mix can be a work of art.
It can
yeah,
be,
for
but I'm just
sure.
saying when you
Like,
take certain
money.
types of music, like
All
the
of Dark Side of the Moon.
stuff I hear on the radio when I'm
Oh, yeah.
driving my stepdaughter
But that stuff
to
has nothing to do
school.
with art. That's not art. That's
Don't tell the artist.
commodity music.
Breaking on my music.
Listen,
I'm pretty sure that the Beeb feels differently about it from you.
I'm pretty sure the Beeb.
We're going mainstream now. Shania Twain and Justin Bieber.
If we were to talk to the Beeb, hopefully the Beeb will come onto the podcast, because actually I have a lot of respect for the Beeb, because he's a pretty good drummer
His
actually.
face punching antics.
He's a pretty good. You know, he can play rhythm guitar.
I mean,
Yeah, I
now
saw
you're
him
getting
on
into a different
Letterman.
discussion, which is if something is a mass-produced product, is that necessarily?
No, mass-produced can absolutely be art. Absolutely.
I say if it's good, it's good.
It's good. If it's good, I'm with Cole on this.
And what if a
It's
piece
good
of
if-
software mixes and produces? Is it still good?
No,
What if it sounds good though?
it won't.
It's like that bot that's starting to write music and like they made like a Beatles sounding. Did
And
you
it
guys see
sounded
that?
weird.
It sounded
Yes.
weird. It wasn't a human mode of human expression.
I was saying-
By the way, they still had humans perform it,
Yeah.
so they cheated. Until the robot can do all of that, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, so any auto mixing, yeah, we could try it. How much is the software?
I don't. It's more than I want to spend right now. But
Yeah.
it's. I saw it and I was like, you know, I'd give
Okay,
it a run.
let's do this. Let's do this, right? If somebody wants to pre-order a copy of whatever Tom does with this thing, we'll put a link in the description. It'll be paypal.me/thejazzdestroyers, and then we'll have your email. And if we can raise enough money, if you all kick in $10,
Question is, if I write a dirty song, can it auto bleep the words?
no,
Oh, that'd be awesome.
it would help. It would help. But I think what you'll find is those mixes will be supremely boring mixes. They'll be sufficient, sure, but they'll be demo mixes. They won't be those. It won't be an artistic mix.
So it'll be like everything else on pop music radio to these days.
I say the bar is pretty low, right?
The bar right now is pretty low, but we're just watching we're just watching the industry collapse in on itself.
Sure.
Eventually, it will become a single company that owns.
yeah, called iTunes.
Yeah.
Well, in many ways, it's iTunes, but it'll become a single company that controls most of the radio. That controls Vivo, right? It'll the last of the three majors will eventually collapse into one.
They love
What's a
the
Vivo?
Vivo's the big YouTube thing. where all
commercial
the-
YouTube.
Yeah, it's
You mean Vimeo?
no.
Vimeo's another
Vimeo's a different
platform.
Oh, Vivo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
All the major label artists
the-
have a Vivo account.
Vivo is owned by the majors.
Yeah, all the
I
major
seem
4
detached.
record labels, right?
That's fine. So you'll So you'll wind up, they'll all collapse into one, and then eventually it'll go like a supernova. Boom. Because either it'll be broken up like they did with AT&T back in the... When did they break up AT&T?
Into the baby bells?
Yeah.
Who broke them up?
No, when?
Oh, jeez.
Well, anyway, it'll be like that when they broke... AT&T used to have a monopoly on all phone service in
Yeah.
America, and they broke it up.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Right?
I
But
thought it was Ma Bell, but
Ma Bell was AT&T, and then they broke
when
up
it
into Baby
became
Bells.
things like
Okay.
Southwestern Bell and Pacific Bell and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right. So it
SBC,
will
yeah.
eventually turn into this single company who controls the 360 deals, so they'll control the touring, especially the stadium level tours. They'll control the radio waves, and they'll control all the production of these artists, and they'll pluck them off of things like YouTube, like they did with Bieber. They'll pluck them off of it. They'll go, oh, this kid got 4 million views. Boom, come in. Put them through the pipeline just like they do now. It'll just become so singular and homogenized. It'll be a single sound, and that is when it will finally die.
Yeah.
And then from the ashes will be Get Off My Lawn Records, trying to make good music.
yes.
That's the whole point of what we do. is
got it. That's
like,
the system.
like we're just trying to work with
That's it.
12 artists that we like, and we're gonna make the records work the way we're gonna make them. We're gonna make them sound as good as we can make them,
We've got 12 flavors.
and we're gonna sell, and we're gonna sell them. We're gonna sell them directly, right? We're gonna sell them at the gigs. They're available online, but nobody's buying them online. We sell more physically in person than we do online. And so if we all pool our audiences,
Sure.
and the big upside is that I'll just produce all of it. I don't want to do P&D deals. I want to cut records. So then I'll produce it, but I'm taking that Steve Albini approach of like just try to stay out of the way. And
I liked what he had to say about that.
yeah, just try to stay out of the way. Now, granted, part of it is it's way easier to produce those records. I get a lot of, yeah, I write songs. Can you produce a record for me? Okay, do you have a band? Well, no. I thought you could like play the drums and the bass and the... Yes, I can play the drums and the bass and the guitar. No, I will not do that. When you make a record that way, it takes about 24 hours per
Yeah,
song.
I've done that. That's a pain.
It's a huge pain. Put a band together. Get in a room. Make some music. Music's a collaborative experience. Doing it alone in a room like that is just miserable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one pitfall.
Oh, Regal Cat is
Self-producing.
out cold on you.
She is.
Oh, she's being so cute. So,
Well, you're also
No, I agree with that.
I'm being long-winded.
you're also leaving out one of the major pitfalls of self-producing.
Which is?
You don't have another set of ears,
There's
Yeah.
not another set of ears. That's
There's
You know,
so
it's
many
good to
pitfalls.
have some
And-
criticism. Yeah.
and that's a big one, especially as you age. You know, if you're not getting regular ear tests
Sure.
and making sure that your hearing is up to par, it's going to be reflected in whatever you produce.
Become self-absorbed too.
That's also true. That's
Yep.
the one. It can
And
become
it's a big
very
one.
self-absorbed.
And definitely.
You know, because if you just disappear into your own echo chamber like that, and
That's
nobody
what a lot
goes-
of these acts do too. They have entourages. They have people who are like not critiquing them, enabling them, and so they become in their own little psyche bubble, and then they suck. That's how it works.
basically.
Yeah.
All right. So what's next?